Rock and roll, R&B, and hip-hop bands have been huge cultural forces since the burst of the musical scene in the 1950s. Not only have musical bands dramatically altered the evolution of popular music, but they have also influenced fashion, human behavior, and cultural norms in general, and have been especially popular among younger adults and teenagers. Today, Cranial Bliss brings you the 10 most successful bands of all time. It's true that some stars shine brighter than the rest. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a fun comment, and we'll pick our favorite to feature you in our viewer appreciation segment at the end of each video. You could be on the receiving end of our random compliment of the day. Number 10. Sly and the Family Stone. Sly and the Family Stone made some of the most buoyant and thoughtful music of the late 60s and early 70s, uniting and transforming black and white music at the time of highest hope and deepest betrayal in America. Leader Sly Stone personified both extremes as the truest of believers and a victim of his disillusionment. The summer of '69 found Sly and the Family Stone rising to the heights of popularity. Unfortunately, Sly took his obsession with highness literally and came to confuse the easy high of drugs with the more difficult highs of music, love, and the joy of existence. With the drugs came increasing paranoia and self-absorption. Drummer Erico left during the production, and Sly further damaged the family reel by playing most of the instruments on the album himself, isolated in a cocaine cocoon. Ironically, Riot was the band's only #1 album. The dream and the reality then both fell apart, but the music remains. Number 9. Guns N' Roses. In justifying Guns N' Roses' appearance on this list, we need to look no further than the band's greatest hits album, which stacks up against any in rock history. Let's dig deeper. Despite its distinctly metal vibe, Guns N' Roses' legacy is driven by a lead singer with nearly unlimited range and collective songwriting. Seamlessly, GNR pivoted from speed metal to power ballad to songs so soft that Sheryl Crow could cover them. The band also holds an interesting distinction. At nearly 9 minutes long, 1991's November Rain is the longest song ever to break into the Billboard Top 10. The lilting, rolling piano ballad, interspersed with classic solos from lead guitarist Slash, became an airwaves mainstay for months. Number 8. Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd is the most eccentric and experimental multi-platinum band, creating exceptional cinematic sound sculptures. As Floyd headed more deeply into experimental symphonic explorations and the sonic chill of space, the more popular they became. In elaborate theatrical presentations of the work, a wall was physically constructed throughout the performances, the collapse of which at the end of each show nearly presaged the group's fate. One of the members, Roger Waters, went solo in the early 80s, but the group has reunited periodically. Without him, neither the group nor he has ever been the same since. Number 7. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin formed in London, England in 1968. The main 4 members were Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. Their careers together lasted 12 years without small reunions, and the band went on to sell 220 million units. Plant's vocals reached levels of deranged. Bonham, whose accidental death in 1980 broke up the band, used to pound his drums relentlessly like a nimble elephant dancing through the house. Jones's bass and strategic keyboards glued the disparate elements together, and Page, who did most of the writing and production, played a memorable guitar in rock history. Proving the band's vast, enduring popularity, the band's Live 2 DVD set Led Zeppelin has sold more than 600,000 copies. Number 6. The White Stripes. The White Stripes are the only band on this list from the 2000s. After 2 solid albums that failed to break through, White Blood Cells skyrocketed the band to stardom with Fell in Love with a Girl. Fans buying the album quickly realized that the remaining tracks, including oddball anthems like Hotel Yorba and Mellow We're Going to Be Friends, bore little resemblance to the breakout hit. It wasn't what we expected, but it was, well, incredible. Number 5. Queen. If an awful biopic could disqualify a band from this list, Queen would not be on it. Luckily, it can't. Queen is a combination of cultural influence. Societal impact and songwriting ability rival any band in music history. That bum 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 sound you hear at every sporting event from the World Cup finals to Little League Baseball, that's a Queen riff. And when one team is ultimately crowned the best, they play Queen's song, We Are the Champions. Queen is one of those bands good enough to outshine themselves. meaning their greatest hits were so great that the rest of their catalog gets overlooked. When you bring the world Bohemian Rhapsody, the song is a little less remarkable yet tends to stall in the background. Number 4. The Grateful Dead. When Henley wrote The Boys of Summer in 1984, he saw the sticker on luxurious Detroit steel as a contradiction of values. But Henley didn't realize that his symbol of a dead past was in reality a very powerful symbol of the present and future. The Dead sold out every show because a dead show was a socially acceptable place to temporarily take a break from the rat race and try on 60s hippie values without having to live them. People who didn't do any drugs any other time indulged and danced around like pixies to the Dead and their light, rhythmic, pleasant, sometimes inspired extended musical journeys. The Dead's success inspired the entire jam band movement, which carries on its musical and cultural lineage to this day. Number 3. The KINKS. In 1984, when the Beatles were asking young ladies to hold their hands, the KINKS had higher aspirations. On the heels of their breakthrough hit You Really Got Me, from their self-titled debut album All Day and All of the Night, pushed the envelope of radio-permissible sexuality. They were immensely talented. Ahead of their time in both music and message, to this day the KINKS are one of the few bands that can get you to dance. They have a foot-tapping irresistibility that makes their double album Best Hits compilation. Number 2. The Rolling Stones. The title of world's greatest rock and roll band fell with very little dispute to the Rolling Stones, who by then were in the middle of such a wondrous creative peak that they might have challenged the Fab Four for the title anyway. Not only have the Stones been the greatest rock band in the world for more than 30 years, but they have been a functioning rock and roll unit for more than 40, the longest run in history. At the time, the Rolling Stones were a ragged R&B cover band, but their run at the Crawdaddy had generated much attention, and with the Beatles on their way up, no one wanted to miss the next big thing. The Bad Boys were on their way. Number 1. The Beatles. The Beatles were an English pop group from Liverpool. Forming in 1960, the 4 band members were Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. Ever since they signed to EMI, their careers never lost momentum. In total, the Beatles claimed to have sold over 600 million units and had a very successful decade as a group. They won 14 international awards, all within the space of 10 years together. Almost miraculously, they embodied the apex of the form artistically, commercially, culturally, and spiritually at just the right time. They are hailed as the most successful band ever, and the statistics back them. So guys, those were the 10 most successful bands ever. Which one of these is your favorite? Do you know of a band that should have made the list? Let us know in the comments below. Now for our viewer appreciation and random compliment of the day. This one goes out to Taehyun Kim. You're one of a kind. See you in the next video.